Hi there, third graders. I'm going to read you this story called Perfectly Norman. And the reason that I want to read you this story at this time of year is because this is a story about a boy who discovers that he is amazing and that he has this wonderful side of him, but he's afraid to show it to the world. And so it's about how he gains the bravery to share his true self with the world. And I think that's such an important message for all of us. We all have these unique sides to us that make us who we are. And the world can be a scary place. So sometimes we try to keep them hidden. But when we take pride in who we are and we show our true selves to the world, just like in that other book, our bravery grows in us and it also spreads throughout the rest of the world. And we feel good about ourselves and we help other people feel good about themselves too. So I know that all of you are so special and so amazing. And I want you to be like Perfectly Norman and share your amazingness with the world. Okay, Perfectly Norman. Whoops. By Tom Percival. Norman had always been normal, perfectly normal, until one day he grew a pair of wings. Norman had imagined growing taller or growing a beard like his dad, but he had never imagined growing a pair of wings. Still, they were here now, so he decided to test them out right away. Soon Norman was swooping around and generally having the most fun ever. But then he had to go in for dinner. Dinner! You see, Norman had always been so normal, he didn't know how his parents would feel about his extraordinary wings. As he went in, Norman covered himself up in a great big coat. His parents didn't notice the wings, but they did think it was odd to be wearing a coat indoors. Bath time was problematic. So was bedtime. The coat was hot and uncomfortable, but Norman had decided that no one should see his wings, ever. The next day, Norman went to the park, but he was far too hot to play any of his favorite games. And so it went on. Long car journeys were unbearable. The swimming pool was dreadful, and that was nothing compared to his friend's birthday party. The only time that Norman could feel normal now was when it rained. One day, a boy tried to pull his coat off, and Norman had to run away, hot-faced, angry, and sad. He wished he'd never grown those stupid wings. Then he saw some birds high up in the sky and remembered the joy of his first flight. It occurred to Norman that it was the coat that was making him miserable, not the wings. I think what this page is trying to say is that if you're hiding something about yourself, then it's the hiding of the thing that makes you feel yucky, not the actual thing itself. Why don't you take that scruffy old thing off? Suggested his mom and dad. Norman looked up at them hesitantly. His parents smiled and nodded. Norman smiled back. Then he threw off the coat and let his wonderful wings fan out. Norman leapt into the air. Finally, he was free of that coat. He noticed a few other children wearing thick, heavy coats of their own. They looked up at Norman and around at one another nervously. There was a moment's pause, and then whoosh! The sky was filled with flying people. Norman had never felt so happy. He realized that there was no such thing as perfectly normal, but he was perfectly Norman. which was just as it should be. That's the end. So just like that other book, bravery spreads, and don't hide these wonderful, special things about you, even if they feel like they're not going to be so special and wonderful. They probably are. So leave a comment. Tell us what you think about the book, an idea you had about it, a question you had about it, a part you liked. And thank you for listening.